Hello, welcome to the ranch. You know, a lot of people produce a lot of food in small places. There's a lot of great systems out there and stuff, but there's one big problem that's really hard to address in a garden. And if you're trying to be self-sufficient and kind of be a home forager or whatever you might want to call it, then it can be really tough to get protein. Nutrient dense foods that really truly sustain you, that can be a hard thing to get. If you think about it, you can grow a lot of lettuce, have a lot of salads, but is that really sustaining food? You can grow a lot of fruits, all kinds of other vegetables that really are important for your diet. But to be getting in them protein levels and substance foods that are truly filling, then that's a whole nother story. And that can be hard to achieve. Well, there are a few plants that do that. And interesting enough, some of those plants can even fill the niche between where your tree canopy is and where your vegetables are, where there's not enough light for those vegetables to grow and they only grow up just a little ways. Well, this is another layer in space that you're not often using, and it should be thought about more. This really is a big problem in a lot of agricultural situations. Our smaller farmers, smaller rancher type peoples, homesteaders, people just trying to survive the best they can. That protein is an awful hard thing to come by. Raising some of our own hens and getting some good fresh eggs, that goes a long ways, but it only goes so far. And then oftentimes producing enough feed to produce your protein can be kind of costly. There are a few plants that we can use that can provide some of that protein and substance. Most plants, the problem is, most plants that can produce a little protein in our gardens, they don't fit the modern garden systems. And that doesn't mean we can't find ways to incorporate them in. And it just so happens that one of those plants is hazelnuts. Those hazelnuts, they're awful full of protein and other minerals and oils that we need for a healthy life. And so let's just take a closer look at the hazelnut. Hazelnuts have been sustaining people for thousands of years. Archaeologists have found great piles of their shells in places people have camped and lived. They were sort of proto-agriculture, if you will. These people knew these foods, these thickets, knew where to find them, knew their seasons, and knew just when to be there to harvest them. This was real food, real use, actually sustaining people and cultures. They store really well. They got those people through hard winters and hard times, because that was important, being able to get something that could actually be stored. Hazelnuts, they're tough and hardy plants. They've got varieties that can go from zone 4 to zone 8. You could probably push that a little bit too. So there's like a hazelnut that fits just about any place. They have kind of unique pollination. They'll tassel out many years when there's still snow on the ground. You'll see their little tassels, and they're wind pollinated. So even before those bees are out and doing their thing, your hazelnuts are likely pollinated. Long before cherries and peaches and plums. You know, they're really interesting and adaptable. It's really neat to see when they have those catkins hanging in that early late winter spring. We're into early spring, and this young tree is just starting to leaf out, just a little bit past when the catkins are gone. They have a neat shape and design to them, and they're kind of a suckering type shrub. Really, they want to be a thicket, or they can make a great hedgerow. Matter of fact, I love this plant so much, I'm gonna do a pretty good sized hedge out in the very back. You can get a pound or two of nuts off of a mature plant, but a whole hedgerow of them is going to be some substantial nourishment. This tree looks a little scraggly and might be dying on a couple of branches here. That's because a fully mature mule deer decided to polish his horns on the side of this tree. But there's enough branches and growth here, and with its suckering habit, that it'll come back just fine. Now this filbert, they call it a contorted filbert or a hairy lander's walking stick. It's one of my favorite all-time plants of anything I've ever grown. Just look at the way those branches twist and contort. You can make some interesting things out of the wood of this tree, or bush I should say. It will produce some nuts, but not a lot of them. And it's probably not quite as hardy as your pure American filberts. But I just love this plant so much, and it's cool that it'll give you a few nuts for your effort. Now these ornamental types, you know, they're not going to be all that much for big on production. But if you're in a smaller space, you know, don't have room for a bunch, then these contorted filberts can fill up a space where otherwise you really wouldn't have much growing, and you get that beautiful contorted branching to boot. Filberts, they've been feeding people for tens of thousands of years. You may want to just seriously consider putting a few filberts in at your place. Well, thank you for watching. Check back in on me from time to time. I'm always doing something new.